Greetings everyone, Slizzle466 here from Team One Trick, and in today's video we want to bring you some deck building tips with Murloc Shaman. Murloc Shaman is a new deck that's popped up from the Rise of Shadows expansion, and there's a lot of experimentation to have with the archetype. Beginning with some statistics, the placement in the meta tier lists for Murloc Shaman is around low to mid tier 2. As you can see, it has a lot of good matchups. It does very well against Togwaggle and Aggro Druid. It does well against Mech and Secret Hunter. It does well against most of the varieties of Mage. It's similar with Paladin. It does well against Kingsbane Rogue, Darkest Hour Warlock and Zoolock, and Pirate Warrior. And it should be noted here that Odd Paladin and Kingsbane Rogue are two of the most popular and powerful decks in the wild meta, so having good matchups against those really help. As for your bad matchups, you're going to have a rough time against Jade Druid and Big Priest, which are two very popular decks right now. Mind Blast Priest is also an issue because of the Spirit Lashes and Psychic Screams, as well as Dustbreakers. Odd Rogue, surprisingly, is a bad matchup, simply because Rogue has the 2-attack weapon, which is very good at dealing with Murlocs. Cube and Rita lock a bad matchup simply because it's difficult for the Murloc Shaman to deal with the Void Lords coming back or being duplicated and all sorts of shenanigans. Dead Man's Hand Warrior and Odd Warrior just slaughter this deck, so usually you just concede and move on. And then you've got a couple neutral matchups, your 50-50s. The deck's okay against Even Shaman. If you've got your Toxfin, you can deal with some big minions. Similar case with Even Warlock. And again, if you're seeing a lot of those matchups, maybe this might not be the right deck to currently be climbing with. One of the first players to hit Wild Legend with Murloc Shaman was Hylung. This is the original list that we saw on the ladder. As you can see, you've got quite a lot of new cards in here. You've got things like Soul of the Murloc, which kind of behaves like Soul of the Forest in Druid. You've got Storm Chaser to help you discover some extra spells that might help you out. And then the following month, Hylung hit Legend with the exact same list again, and Gankplang hit top 10 Legend with his list. And Gankplang introduced Murloc Tinyfin, and this card is just ridiculous with Underbelly Angler, just the combos you can pull off generating free cards into your hand. Gankplang also opted to put in a second Gentle Megasaur, which I tend to agree with, and this list, personally, I played and hit Legend with. Corbett also hit top 5 Legend with his specific list. His list looks a little bit more teched against aggro. It's the only of these 3 lists that's running Maelstrom Portal. It's also running Double Devolve. This is a good build if you're having a lot of trouble against a lot of flood decks. Keep in mind though, you're already favored against those. And Corbett's list also runs Colin the Finishes, which has great synergy with your Murloc Tidecaller, your Everything is Awesome. One thing to note with all 3 of these lists is that it's not running the quest Unite the Murlocs. And the reason for that is in Wild, it is just too slow to play a quest on turn 1. You play a quest on turn 1 against an Odd Paladin and they're just going to run you over with their board. So the quest does not work in Wild. So when it comes to building your own list, these are some of the cards you want to start building with, your core cards. So your 1-drops, your Murloc Tidecaller, your Sir Finley Murgleton, your Sludge Slurper, your Toxfin. If you don't own Sir Finley Murgleton, it's not an absolute must to craft, but it really, really makes the deck very powerful. Your Shaman Hero Power is essentially useless in this deck, and so getting a different one is much more helpful. As for board clears, Devolve is core, not necessarily Maelstrom Portal. A lot of the time you've got enough minions on the board to deal with all the things that are thrown at you from the aggressive decks. You've also got Ice Fishing, which helps you get a bit of draw into your deck. You'll notice that none of these lists run Jeeves. And again, similar to Aggro Druid, Jeeves has become too slow and wild. You don't want to play a 4-mana 1/4. You want to play lots of stuff on turn 4. Rockpool Hunter, just a solid card to make your board more powerful, give you a favorable trade. And of course, Underbelly Angler. This card is absolutely insane. 2 mana 2/3, you've already got premium stats, and you get random Murlocs when you play a Murloc. Keep in mind it's play, not summon, so cards like Calling the Finishes don't trigger the Underbelly Angler. But this card can just win games on the spot. You've also got Murloc War Leader, which is core. Even though it got nerfed, just giving all your Murlocs +2 attack is very powerful for sneaking in lethals or for getting favorable trades. Gentle Megasaur, very strong card, aggressively statted, can give you some amazing abilities on your Murlocs. Old Murkai is a Hall of Fame card. You currently have to craft it if you want to own it. You cannot own all the Murlocs anymore to get it for free, and this is a must craft. This card literally wins games on the spot, especially when you pull them off Finger. You might get a free one off Angler, but just pulling it off Finger can be insane sometimes, so very powerful card. Speaking of Finger, again, Finger is a core card, but if you don't own it, you don't necessarily need to craft it. The reason it's in the deck is to help you with your aggressive matchups. Just being able to trade in a minion, get 2 minions for free. Those minions could be an Underbelly Angler, or even a Scargill, which we haven't mentioned yet, and you can just make horrendous boards out of nowhere, and then buff them with the final core card in the list, Every Fin is Awesome. Even though 7 mana looks like a lot, because you're flooding your board constantly and efficiently, this card is typically very cheap. In some cases cheaper than a Savage Roar. Just keep in mind that unlike Savage Roar, it only applies to minions, so you don't get the +2 attack onto your hero. As for some recommended cards you might want to add into your list, Murloc Tinyfin, as mentioned earlier, wonderful synergy with your Underbelly Angler. If you're having trouble against aggressive decks, Cold Light Seer can really help you out. Just buffing your board by 2 health can help you with some favorable trades. It's also a nice card if you're trying to play around things like Defiles or Spirit Lash, so very good card you might want to put in your list. Scargill, this is a little bit of a greed card. Not all the lists are running it, so again, if you don't own this card, it's not a must craft, but it is very powerful. Especially if you play Scargill into Underbelly Angler, all of the Murlocs you're then going to only be 1 mana. Similarly, if you pull it off Finger, it's insane. One thing to be careful of though, if you're running Murloc Tinyfin in your deck, play the Tinyfin before the Scargill, because the Murloc Tinyfin is going to cost you 1 mana once that Scargill's in play. Siltfin Spirit Walker is another interesting card. It's been around for a long time in WoW, but never saw play until now. And it's an excellently statted minion. The overload doesn't really matter. And because pretty much all of your minions are Murlocs, you get a lot of power off this card. Then we have our tech cards. So there are a lot of tech options available here. Bluegill Warrior if you want to have some charge. Block is great if you're trying to freeze big minions from Shamans or freeze a Kingsbane Rogue's face. Ghostlight Angler is great to be able to not only generate a lot of board space, a lot of board presence, but also has a great synergy with Underbelly Angler, just being able to trigger it over and over again. Hinchclan Hogsteed is a good anti-aggro card. You've got Rush to give you a nice trade, and you get a free Murloc, which is nice. As mentioned, Maelstrom Portal is good if you're having a lot of issues against aggro. Nightmare Amalgam is an interesting one. Just be careful though, because if there are a lot of Galactic Crawlers in the meta, this will get eaten quite happily by a crab. Soul of the Murloc is a good anti-control card, kind of like how Soul of the Forest doesn't see play in aggro druid, though it used to. Soul of the Murloc can make it difficult for your opponent to deal with your board in a slower matchup. Similar with Calling the Finishes, this is a good anti-aggro tool. It's also a good anti-control tool, but again, it is a little slow. 4 mana for 4 1/1s, a lot of the time can just get cleared straight away by your opponent, but you might want to try the card out, see how it is. Storm Chaser is also a nice tool. Just lets you draw a spell from your deck that costs 5 or more. This just helps you tutor your Every Fin is Awesome. If mages are causing you a lot of problems, especially those pesky quest tempo mages, you might want to put a Loatheb in your deck to deal with those. And then we move on to our mulligan guide. So some cards that you want to always keep, and this is in fact the mulligan guide for all matchups. So there are no aggro or control mulligans here. This is just for every single matchup. Very easy deck to mulligan for. Murloc Tiny Fin, if you're running it, you want to keep any 1-mana Murloc that is in your deck, and of course you want to keep the King of Murlocs, Underbelly Angler, because the card is just absolutely insane. If you'd like to try out any of these decks, you can find the deck codes in the description below. If you want to share with Team One Trick your experiences with Murloc Shaman, we'd love to hear your experiences in the comments below. We will reply to you. And you can also follow us on Twitter at twitter.com/teamonetrick, instagram.com/teamonetrick, and to give us your true support, you can click that red subscribe button below and even click the bell for notification. I'd like to thank you so much for your time, and we hope to see you again.